Good evening. I am your host, Reid Robinson, for the Uncentered podcast.
And I am the separate but equal host, Gabriel Schatzman. And we're going to be talking about something pretty similar on that vein, if you want to introduce it.
We got to iron that out. But, so today we're going to be talking about... Oh, happy episode 3, by the way, Gabe.
Thank you. Happy episode 3. I can't believe we're going to pretend that it's been 6 weeks.
Yeah.
By our bi-weekly episodes.
Right. So today we're going to be talking about whether or not the South and the North following the war, whether or not the North, rather, should have subsidized economically in some way the South because they followed through with their promise of outlawing slavery across the Union.
Hooray. Which we both agree.
We both agree the institution of slavery was not good, and the South as an institution, the Confederacy as an institution, was morally bad and ethically bad and economically bad. So I don't think we're going to be arguing about that.
Yeah. No, our views, at least we can agree that the war was done to protect the financial investment that the South made because they were too dumb to do machinery.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to communicate.
Yeah. And so I will be taking the position here that the North should have, subsidized economically in some regard the South following the war, regardless of whether or not they did or didn't, which I think bits of Reconstruction were the North.
Probably only for the North's benefit, not necessarily out of moral high ground.
And
so what are your
position?
Is the antithesis. I don't believe that the North should have... I think the South should have pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, as the South is currently communicating, or I should say a Southern mentality is communicating to the rest of the world. What are some of your reasons for
I wanted to ask
North?
you, are you coming at that from the perspective of, like, this is a punishment or a consequence? The North not subsidizing the South industry?
A consequence. I don't think it's saying, as a punishment, I'm going to lock you in a room and give you no food. I think it is hey, we made it without using slavery. How about you guys survive without using slavery? A consequence of your negative action not the negative action wasn't losing the war. The negative action was shackling people and transporting them to do services without payment or consent, right? And the consequence of losing is, sorry, you don't get to do that. You have to operate like the rest of I'll just call it the modern world, because I know there's going to be some weird psycho-slavery apologist who we're going to lose that one viewer.
It's Tom Cruise again.
It's Tom Cruise again. That's wild. I'm glad he's still listening. Thank you for tuning in. The CEO of Coors Light. Yeah, welcome back. I recognize that there was a lot of slavery perpetuated by the South, and
you should recognize that because that is true.
I misspoke. I meant Africa. Africa was a major proponent and enabled that slavery, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the U.S. taking the high ground, and whether they should have known and done better. I don't think the North should have, for a few reasons. I think, would the South have, quote unquote, won and allowed? They would have been separate, but they absolutely would have had the ability to levy a tax or levy a consequence upon the North. They absolutely would have not taken the high ground and just said, oh yeah, you guys can be totally independent. I absolutely think they would have shaken down the North for saying, well, remember when you guys burned down Atlanta? We're really mad over that. I don't know if that's how the Southerners would have talked back then with that stupid
It would have been a little more, you guys burned down Atlanta. We need to come back and take what we can from you.
That's like a George Bush senior voice.
Hey, he's from Texas.
Yeah, that's the South.
That is the South.
Right, one of my favorite slave states.
Yeah,
Texas.
top 3
current slave state.
Yeah.
If you're not a straight white person.
Yeah, and I think I don't think we differ too much on the morals behind the argument.
Yes, slavery bad. Yeah,
but my idea is economically, right? The South was the North was complicit in slavery for
a minute,
100 years, since before the founding of the country.
Well, yeah, they needed a bill.
Were complicit.
No, there's no justification.
Since before the founding of the country.
So what turned? Was there an enlightenment where they were like, "Oh fuck, they're people"? What do you someone read a book and they're like, "Guys, you're not going to believe this."
This is going to be funny coming off of last episode, but
okay.
a big thing was the abolitionist movement in England.
That's because they nuked.
It was the abolitionist movement in England.
Okay.
gained a lot of speed, and England outlawed slavery very early on into the 19th century. And after that point, we recognized as a country that the institution of slavery was not going to be around forever, and so we outlawed as a country again the importing of new slaves. But what that did was that drove up the prices of slaves on the home front and made slave breeding a very lucrative trade. And again, I don't mean to come off crass in any way here. Like, these are individuals, these are people.
It was more expensive. They were worth more economically to the people buying them, not as their intrinsic value of being a human.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
And again, there's no argument there.
Yes.
These are individuals we were talking about.
People are not products, as we were. Okay.
And even the South, to some extent recognized that they were people, but they're like 3/5 of people, right?
Yeah.
That was a compromise that they made with the North.
Not
the North,
Henry
again,
Clay, going back to episode 1.
Yeah.
For our dedicated listener.
Andrew Jackson, yeah.
Right.
That was a part of the North being complicit in slavery in the South.
Right.
Again, the Missouri Compromise, right? The idea that Missouri would enter the Union above the Mason-Dixon line as a slave state was a compromise that the northern politicians made with southern politicians to expand the institution of slavery.
And why
that makes them complicit.
Sounds good. So complicit for doing an atrocity. Now you get to defend why the North has to give them money. Let's hear that one.
Right. So
I love the moral high ground.
The Civil War, as much as it was so let me come at it from this way, right?
Ooh,
the Confederacy was an institution founded on slavery.
Yes.
The Civil War was not a war to end slavery objectively.
Yeah, objectively.
Objectively.
Ooh, explain the difference. I can learn how centuries work and the difference between objective and adjective.
So objective means like it is true, it is just fact.
Yes.
And then objectively means like,
oh fuck, if you don't know.
No. It means like outright. It is like entirely.
Okay.
Do you understand the difference?
In its totality.
In its totality.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I hate that word.
Yeah.
Like effect and effect.
Yeah,
I'm choosing not to.
Effect is the outcome. Effect is the action taken.
Okay, so effect.
There's
is
your
the
private
verb.
school education that you got.
I did
coming into play here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yay, public schools.
I've learned a thing.
Yeah. So the
So
the Civil War was
listener.
not in its entirety a
Thank
war
you for
to
choosing.
end. There
Thank
you
you for
go.
choosing the normie word.
right. There you go. We've got our room temperature IQ listeners back. Was not in its entirety
They were
a war
falling
to
asleep
end.
back.
Yeah, right. It was not entirely a war to end slavery.
Okay, and I understand that.
That is an outcome of the war. That is a positive, I think, windfall of the war. But I don't. The North wanted to preserve the Union, right? Sure. Abraham Lincoln and the newly founded Republican Party wanted to preserve the Union as much as there were quote-unquote radical Republicans at the time who wanted to end slavery in its entirety and punish slavers and this, that, and the other, right? So, excuse me.
You're excused for defending slavery.
Because they forced, by threat of guns, the South to remain a part of the Union, they should have treated them like equal states and provided some economic benefit to.
Oh, so we're going the legal route, not the ethical route. Oh, well, because they were still technically states, we have to be nice.
Well, and that's what Reconstruction was. Reconstruction was not only an attempt to reestablish Southern
maybe
culture.
My mind's changed. Maybe I do want to punish the South just for being bitches in this one, because they specifically were trying to not have the protections and privileges and consequences of being a state. Now that they have to be a state,
well, they wanted to be a state in their own country where they had more.
You know what I meant, though.
Yeah,
they specifically were okay forfeiting the benefits, which would have been, hey, give us money for a better outcome. They specifically said we are going to They knew that it was illegal when they did it. We are going to extrajudiciously with even more
judiciary. Yeah,
with even more extra
judicious.
Yeah, usually you have to pay $3 for extra judish.
Extra.
And
I can't do the accent again. Episode 1, I got negative feedback on the accent that I did.
Oh, which accent was it?
My New Yorker who just happens to be Jewish.
Right. Yes, that's what that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, your extra legal, meaning illegal, they were perfectly fine giving up those rights in order to own people. And then the moment they couldn't own people and then they were states, I don't think it's okay to say, do you think I could get some of that money? Like, no, they specifically did the economic win-loss. They swatted this. They did your strength weaknesses. And they were like, hey, I think we're going to win. And when we win, it's more economically advantageous to own human beings because picking cotton and tilling soil and building buildings fucking hurts your knees and back. I don't want to do this, so I'm going to make someone else do it. They thought that their odds of being successful in that was worth the potential cost of not getting a benefit from being a state. They were willing to be their own country and not receive benefits from the United States. They happened to lose, so they went in with the expectation with the war of not getting benefits from the United States. So I don't think it's okay if your kid runs away
for them to then get benefits.
Right. If the kid,
States.
if the child runs away and then comes back and is like, "Hey, can I still get my allowance?" It's like, dude, it's going to take a minute. We're not on great terms, and I think that kind of incentivizes.
So is there like a time frame that you'd be willing?
I don't
to
know.
I
think I think there's conditions. I think there has to be consequences to actions. That doesn't necessarily mean punishment, but there are. A thing happened, you made a bit of an oops you made an error in your judgment in that you tried to own people,
and I'm not even approaching this from the idea that the northern states should have been responsible for then picking the southern states up.
Sure.
I think it is a thing of that they should have gotten more from the federal government to get back onto their feet, and almost like welfare. Right. Ooh. Where then here's a good
can't wait for the South to need welfare and then not understand the irony behind that.
Yeah. Well, way later, right? Yeah. The South.
We got that TikTok memory.
Should have been able to apply in some way for welfare from the federal government, right? So not as its own entity, but as like individual states, like Virginia, for example, or North Carolina should have been able to. What do you mean?
Do you need like a written apology of like, sorry for trying to own people? Can I have dollars?
I mean, sure, we could go that route. Like the each individual state has to like fully apologize, but then they did that almost in some way or another when they signed the 13th Amendment, when they said that owning people is morally bad and it's going to be illegal.
Yeah, but we still don't necessarily teach the entire truth in a lot of states. That's why we have the terms.
Again, that's why Mississippi, 50th in education. That's the third time in 3 episodes.
That's a good theme.
Yeah.
We were batting around the title of the podcast being called Mississippi 50th in education.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it just didn't stick.
Yeah.
I think the title was too long for Mississippians. I think there's too many letters.
Yeah. MISSIPPI.
God, this guy's so
Wait, sorry. That's Mississippi. MISSIPPI.
All right, never mind. We're back, baby.
Yeah.
Virginia, 49th.
Yeah.
No, Virginia's actually pretty good, right?
Is it actually?
I
think so.
We can have
I thought so.
look up Virginia's education.
Again, New Jersey top.
Ranking.
Yeah, we're rehashing too much. We need to focus on the new.
We were never making new content. It's all old.
That
it's
is
just
true.
the ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
If
we replace this podcast one episode by one,
one word at a time, this has become the first episode. It's become something listenable.
If it's an identical podcast to how it was in the first episode, is it the same podcast?
Become popular, yeah.
No, Jesus.
No.
Hope not.
I think a parallel drawn that I can attack the DNC for, which I will gladly do as a leftist, is when Hillary pretty much said, "Hey, learn to code." When we talked about using green energy and getting rid of jobs in Pennsylvania and the Carolinas and the other places that make terrible cancerous decisions, like putting carcinogens in the air through fossil fuels.
Not the decisions are so bad they might as well be cancer. These are like decisions
that
decisions
actually
literally
literal physical health effect.
Yeah.
Right. We the Democrats had a very crass saying, which was, "Well, they can learn to code," and I can absolutely see a parallel where it's like, hey. It is a bad mechanism for economics. It's necessary to sustain them. There absolutely are towns and cities and essentially states that were relying on unsustainable, unethical, not healthy ways of having an economy, like Pennsylvania and their coal, or even Texas and their fossil fuels, which obviously lobby, and that's a whole other conversation. I won't go down that one.
Well, the thing about like learning to code is like, is that even going to be a thing in 10 years now?
No, a lot of
those
those jobs, yes,
now, so
100%. No, I mean, if to be fair, if you had listened to that advice, you would have made a lot of money because coding has been wildly economically successful.
Would have made a lot of money for like 20 years.
I don't necessarily recommend it today. Yeah, but the people who know they could learn to code probably
learn to mine Bitcoin,
or learn to suck up to certain people.
I think everybody should learn something, like learn like one.
Sure,
thing
no,
dude,
learn a trade skill. No, and again, another chance to reg it. I think this is where the Democrats fucked up by demonizing blue collar work.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm in the military, and I'm pretty far left. And no, I think there was a parallel between LOL learn to code is very dismissive, and I can understand that I'm advocating for a bit of a no, we shouldn't give them boots to pick themselves up. That's the thing, right? It's like
what happens when like these jobs that you're replacing are these blue collar workers, are the jobs of these blue collar workers, right? Like let's say we're getting rid of truck drivers.
Are we not sticking with the original subject anymore?
No, we'll circle back to it.
We'll circle back. It's an oval. We'll oval back to it.
Yeah, we'll oval back to it.
It's figure eight.
You're replacing these jobs like coal miners and truck drivers and then
fast food workers, security guards who can just push a button on a gate. Yeah, I think half the jobs out there could immediately be replaced.
But that's my point. Is like these jobs are being replaced. These are the people who the Democrats said was their base for the better part of 75, 100 years.
Fair,
right?
Yeah, I think both the Democratic Party has to expand their base for who they're attracting to.
Well, now they're the party of the college educated, of the coder, right? So it's not exactly.
I don't know if that's even true though. When you have Yale graduates consistently being in the Republican Party, you have big money. You have a billionaire
because they
in the
want to privatize everything.
Sure, they want to. No, I mean you now have a multi-billionaire in the West Wing of the White House as Elon Musk. He's not technically American.
Yeah. He can't run for president, I think.
Well, they'll change the Constitution.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. We thought a film couldn't, so we'll see.
Anyways,
target demographics. I think it is an excellent question to say what happens. Does the government owe people jobs, some sort of job corps or something, a meaningful work, if you're a security guard and all you do is push a button at a gate, and that can be automated, that can be roboticized through machine learning, AI. I'm finishing my bachelor's after 20 years through data science.
The machine is learning that this car is allowed.
Yes. No, sure. We'll pretend that's what
gate.
AI is. Open gate. Yeah.
How long until that becomes this machine identifies this car as harmful to the environment, blow up the car?
Oh, you're talking if this sounds like a Republican. This is going to be the new A24 movie.
This will be, yeah, it'll be.
When they're just like, oh no, it's not above 45 miles per gallon, and then it just shoots a fucking hellfire. Yeah. Thank you to our sponsors again, Lockheed Raytheon.
Are you driving not a hybrid? Wow, you shouldn't be allowed to drive.
I have a Kia Niro. Fucking love it. 50 miles a gallon. Highly recommend.
I don't. 20 miles a gallon for mine.
Oof.
Yeah, really bad for the environment.
Well, when I program the next Reaper drone model,
I'll tell you what about those Kians. Yeah. They're really good about making cars.
Kians?
I meant Koreans.
I thought like a Kian was like, those damn Kians are real good at running like a Ken.
I drove a Kia.
Like Obama was a Kian.
Yeah. Obama was a Kian. Like Kenyan.
Yeah, that was what I was getting at. You did a shitty accent. I'm going to call you on it.
Yeah.
No, I do have concerns.
Kia people.
I'm all... Yeah, only Kia people know. No, I'm all for the Star Trek future where, no offense, jobs that can be automated should be automated. And that's coming from a pretentious point of view because I don't work in a field that necessarily I feel would be automated. But I do feel like the government does have a responsibility because those people weren't slaveholders. Yeah. Well, it's different, right? There are, and you know what? If there are solar panels that can be hung somewhere, if there's water desalination, if there's a single way, I'm cooking, I'm not circle backing. If there's still a pothole to be filled, if there's still a homeless person on this earth, there will still be employment to be had. If there is still unclean water, if there are still hungry people who need to be fed, if we have one homeless veteran, if we have one drug addicted person, there is still a job to be had. And we are so far behind on good civil service that we absolutely if a truck driver's like, hey, I want to work 35 hours a week and have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment for my 4-member family, I'm 100% behind subsidizing or entirely paying for their education in a meaningful way so they can fucking build solar panels. It's not going to be a learn to code thing. It's not going to be some communist, I'm going to assign you a job. It's not whatever fucking socialist phobia the other team has. I want to quash that. I think if you're working 30 or 35 hours a week, we have the technology and the ability. I think greed is what's holding us back from that. And please take the mic back.
Yeah.
While I sit back and
so the problem is I agree with some of what you said.
That's not a problem.
And I think that therein lies like an argument against what I was saying, which is the argument would be like, oh, the jobs that were then replaced in the South weren't coal mining. They weren't security guard.
Right, they were cotton picking.
They were, because cotton picking still happened. Cotton picking happened for like an additional 50-ish years until we were able to like create
Was it just
stuff
white
to
children who did it?
No, it wasn't. It was black people. Black people returned to the farms that they were once slaves at, and then started earning. They started earning very minimal wages.
Better.
And again, that's a
shit. It's not.
Therein lies the thing. Is these people were still making money on the cotton industry.
Yeah.
The jobs that were replaced, it stopped being slave owner.
The South,
and it started
the
being
South wasn't
employer.
even mad they were losing their slaves. They were just like, now we have to pay them a little bit of our profit.
And they would still house them. They would house them and then waive the pay. Think about how crazy that is.
Yeah. So we didn't win.
No, we did win. But there's a very interesting thing I saw is that like
is it we won as in that we're two white people? Because I would imagine if you're an African American, like, okay, so tell me what happened to my great grandfather after the North won the Civil War, and it's like, well, instead of being paid $0 an hour, they were paid the equivalent of $3 an hour, but $2.50 went to their cost of living. So don't worry, that's what winning looked like.
It's still 50 more cents than.
Oh, we're not going to... No, let's not do the handout game like it's enough. Yeah,
no,
let's not pretend.
Obviously not.
No,
but,
yeah.
No, I think... yeah, I mean, therein lies the problem. I saw a thing recently that said that, like, real... and provided evidence that I don't have off the top of my head, that, like, real chattel slavery didn't even end until, like, the 20th century. Like, very early 20th century. Sure. Which is another... 40 years, mind you, after the Civil War had ended.
Oh,
after
yeah.
The 13th
no,
Amendment
I know that like a lot
right?
of those plantation, like those islands, like the Caribbean islands, explicitly did a shitload of that.
Yeah,
and, like,
I mean in America.
Oh, yeah.
In the United States.
Well,
for,
yeah,
like,
we weren't
another,
like knocking
40...
on doors, making sure it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And I mean, I personally, I don't think it's overblown to say if you smoke weed in the 90s and they threw you in jail for 20 years to turn big rocks into small rocks, or rather to use your sweat to churn economic value out of you for committing essentially a non-crime, while white people were doing normal cocaine because that was a party drug, or ecstasy, or acid, or you were locking up people for crack cocaine, that was also like the US's fault for propagating. That's essentially slavery with a few extra steps, to quote the famous historical document Rick and Morty.
Like those individuals in the prison system were getting paid to do labor because it would have been illegal for them to not get paid.
Sure, but paid's in big quotes.
Exactly, and it's the same effect as as going back to the slaves.
Okay, so it's slavery
that were freed.
Yeah,
going
it's
back to
slavery
the slaves,
with an asterisk,
and then saying, hey, why don't you come work on the plantation again?
Right.
You're gonna be doing the same thing, slightly better hours.
Yeah.
And we'll pay you, but in the contract that you can't read because you haven't been taught to read, it says that I'm going to keep most of your pay.
You're really not earning points for why the North should be paying the South for this. Because
Now,
it sounds like slavery.
If the North had subsidized the industry in some
you're
other
gonna
way,
make it their fault. This is sick. I'm
not.
locked in.
It is not. It is not the fault of the North that they did it. But had they continued after Reconstruction to subsidize in some regard the industries of the South, it potentially could have not happened, or it could have happened in a way that was a lot more humane.
I hear what you're saying, but it's definitely the "you made me beat you because you didn't cook dinner" kind of shit.
And I recognize that's the argument, but like,
You see
you
what
come
you
home
made
and
me do?
dinner's not ready. I'm gonna, you know what I mean?
gonna
Like,
flip.
There's gonna be a reaction.
Yeah, if the North doesn't pay
North-
me for winning the war, then I'm gonna have to pretty much enslave people.
Yeah.
No, I think paying people 40 cents to, I'll call it printing license plates, but I know they do a lot more work in a lot of states. You have the fucking firemen putting out fires, and they're like, well, we're paying them like $9 a day. Yeah, instead of it being called slavery in Comic Sans, it's in Wingdings. Like, it's still a goofy fucking mechanism that shouldn't exist for people putting their life on the line so they can get $8 a day in their commissary so they can buy ramen instead of like food gruel. No, it's
the same conceptually as like company towns, right? Where you
100%.
Where in the middle of West Virginia, this company is hiring not just black people.
The money
but,
goes
like,
in a cycle.
Exactly.
The money
and they
never
pay
leaves.
you,
Right.
but you also own
You have to buy the
company
pickaxe.
housing.
You have to buy the
You
pickaxe.
eat company food. You buy your equipment, right? And then that becomes debt that you then have to pay back, right?
I'll say
and
about the military because we like buy our own uniforms. But no, we get paid very well. It's very good. It's very fair. Yeah.
It is definitely very fair wages.
Oh, God, if you live on like military housing and you eat at the fucking dining facility, you had to buy your... Yeah. But no. You have the ability to escape that cycle.
Yes.
If you don't buy like a 20 mile per gallon vehicle.
Hey, I escaped it, and I do drive a 20 mpg vehicle, so...
Yeah, that's why you're one of the first people to die by hellfire when I control everything.
Yeah.
Through, what's the fucking
when you single-handedly eliminate fossil fuels across the country.
Yes, me, Gabriel.
Yeah.
No, I think that we have... I think the U.S. in 2025 has a moral obligation to not just say, learn to code, even if the Democrats controlled the three systems of government, or whatever, parties of government, whatever, fucking houses, systems, branches.
There you go.
Thank God. Okay, they're never letting me vote again.
Yeah. Believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
You're going to fail your literacy test in 2029.
Right.
That'll, your civic literacy test. Sorry, I didn't mean like the...
To be fair, I'd be voting in 2028. The presidency would be
right.
inaugurated in 2029.
Yeah. Well,
I'm passing
I'm
again.
also failing.
Yes. All right, our votes cancel out.
Yeah.
No, I think any moral society has an obligation for people who have committed no crimes and are working a normal career to have meaningful work. And if you are a truck driver, I don't want you to be a truck driver. I want you to have productive, meaningful work. Sorry if you like driving truck. But realistically, when your life flashes before your eyes, it's going to be pretty shitty. I think as long as they're... I know. I'm not careful. I lost a truck driver vote. Sorry, Tom Cruise. He's just going to be the shoo-in for every fucking job.
All of our Coors
I don't
and
mind.
Boeing and Lockheed listeners and Tom Cruise.
We're going to keep adding to the list. It's up 3. No, I genuinely don't believe that's a meaningful job. And I think as long as there are people...
Because you wouldn't find meaning in it? Or you?
No, there's objectively not meaning.
You think there's no meaning to be found in it?
No, you are moving widgets from point A to point B because
what if like,
the
you could be a food drunk
driver. You could be. Fucking Coors Light piece of shit.
You could be a food truck driver.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the thing is.
You're moving food from one place to where it needs to be.
Yeah, you're a glorified conveyor belt. The only reason that your career exists is because...
How else would we do it? Should we teleport it?
No.
Should we put it on
You can
on Boeing
automate
aircraft?
vehicles. You can automate vehicles. No, the only reason that career exists is because they haven't automated it yet. The moment it becomes...
you have to put a charging station every
That's
5
fine.
miles
Then
along
we'll
the highway.
No, it's not every 5 miles. Fuck off with that.
It would have to be, because
they put
if it's
huge batteries in those vehicles. They've proven it.
Do you know how far trucks drive?
Very far.
Across the country.
You're right, but the only reason...
What if I don't... What if I'm like an AI and I'm like, I don't need to get gas, or I don't need to get
gas
energy at this truck stop. Oh wait, 2.5 miles towards the next one, I need to get it, and it's too late, and now my truck is shutting down.
Learn how fucking machine like.
Well, I'm not an AI, so I don't know.
I am. I almost graduate soon if they don't cut my tuition assistance because
you
I
are a
vote
bot,
left.
I agree.
Fuck right off. No, it's very easy to say the battery lasts 400 miles. We're gonna stop every 350, and every 45,000 miles, there's gonna be some sort of diagnostic done by a person. That's fine. But if you're a truck driver and there is like I said, if there's a pothole that needs to be filled, if there's a single homeless person out there in the United States, I don't think we need a truck driver until we've solved homelessness, drug addiction.
Well, once this technology is fully implementable, is what you're saying.
It is implementable.
As it stands,
it is
right
implementable.
It is
100%.
Self-driving vehicles are implementable right now, 2025.
So the
February 2nd,
first.
Ish.
Can't even fucking tell time, piece of shit.
No, it's the second.
And it's the first.
It is the first.
Okay, eat shit. That's why the North should have nuked the South, bringing it back.
Yeah.
No.
It's callback.
Yeah, it is a callback.
F2.
No.
Go watch it.
As a data science person who genuinely does not like Elon Musk, the driving record for autonomous vehicles is substantially better. Reid's dad can fact check me. It's perfectly fine. I'll take the L. I'm giving him a T-ball. Please do not fact check me right now, editor. I cannot lose this. I need this. We got to play Marvel Rivals in like 15, 20 minutes. So there's people waiting on us.
We'll push past it. Yeah.
Stop it. Stop learning. Stop it. I threw something at her. I can do that now because Trump's president. I can throw things.
Anyways.
So, don't laugh. I didn't give you permission.
Okay, I don't think the North has a moral obligation to support the South, but I do.
You're on my team. No, don't say anything more.
I do think they have an economic obligation, and also, you know what that would have done?
If it was economically beneficial, I think they should do it.
Do you know? Well, then we agree. We agree.
I'm a capitalist.
We've agreed
baby.
the entire time.
Fuck yeah, we got to rename the podcast. Far left. No, I think the moment some actuaries at Walmart look at the facts, and they are doing this, and they say, hey, it's cheaper for us to fire our 65,000 truck drivers. We save $4 a day. Our shareholders
what if
are
they
going to
weren't saving money? What if it was more expensive to?
It's not. It's cheaper.
But
then they wouldn't do it.
So then truck drivers,
they get to stay.
100% would be a meaningful job.
Yep. No, it wouldn't be meaningful.
No, it's still not
it's still a fucking waste of a job.
Even though it's producing more money for the economy than the alternative. That's meaning. There's meaning there.
No, that's not meaning. Your meaning in life should not be to produce shareholder value.
Yeah, and while I agree,
if there are no homeless kids, if there are no homeless veterans, if no one is hungry on planet Earth, if there is peace, that is the goal. And driving truck does not solve that. And if you go to a clinic and see,
what if I was driving medical supplies into Gaza?
Then you'd probably be violating. Well, there's their own issues.
Sorry, what if I was flying in a C-17 and airdropping?
If you're building a pier, I'm
building a pier.
That can't go wrong.
Dropping humanitarian aid into Gaza.
You know,
that's moving towards solving peace, and that is moving towards the same thing. That's delivering needs to mouths. Yes,
you doing it. Sure,
we'll go with
that. What a goddamn stretch.
Flying C-17s over Gaza.
Fine. Yeah, well, the last time aircraft flew over Gaza didn't go well. It's not anti-Israel. I'm just saying they specifically drop bombs on Gaza.
Wow, these
these
MREs are really expired. Yeah, peace.
Why do they keep giving them pork MREs too?
I'm joking.
No,
they didn't happen. Okay.
I made a fun.
Were they all halal though?
I don't know.
Do you think like they were like, ooh, is it stretching it if we give them halal, or should we?
Why? No, they would want halal. Halal's just kosher for.
Well, yeah, but it's like not everyone in Gaza is a.
Oh, you
Muslim.
think they're gonna be fucking?
They're like, should we?
They're gonna be triggered. You're assuming my religion. It's like, brother.
The MREs should accurately represent like the
demographic of
the people in Gaza.
So they taste like bombs.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
I got two laughs.
No. 25% of them taste like bombs.
Oof.
It's growing every day. No, I think the.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
I think we should reconstruct places where it's our fault. The South wasn't our fault. Iraq was our fault. We should rebuild a little bit of Iraq.
I went on a whole tirade about how the South was kind of the North's fault in
some
ways. They kicked that can down the road for like 100 years.
No.
Between the late 18th century.
You like the pregnant now?
The late 18th century and the Civil War, like halfway through the 19th century.
It's not their fault for wanting the Union to stay together.
No, but it is their fault for being complicit in the institution of slavery for that long.
Oh, so because they
since the founding of the country.
That's like saying because I didn't specifically say you can't burn down my apartment, and if you just run around with a lighter while I'm distracted and then you burn it down, I'm like, shit, I should have specified. Like no.
but it's hey, let's build a peaceful apartment here. Oh, I see you're running around with a lighter. How about you only do that on Thursdays? And then the apartment burns down on a Thursday.
So,
it's not.
so the North needed to allow them to have just a little bit of slavery?
No. The North needed to not disallow them from having any slavery at all.
So the North should have allowed them.
There should have, if it's going to be
Like a smidge?
we are now taking a moral stance,
Yeah.
then it's like, from the jump, no slavery. And then they agreed to that. They were like, okay, you're right. No new slavery. Read my lips. No new slavery.
George Bush's famous quote. All right, I appreciate you going from the I'm not going to be a Southern apologist to you throwing on the fucking bucket hat and being like, it was the North's fault for not telling us it was a problem.
No, I don't. No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Left unchecked, of course they had to have slaves.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the
they didn't
Confederacy was
enforce-
a good institution. But
Perfect.
if I could end this war by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. If I could end this war by freeing none of the slaves, I would do it.
Yeah, so Lincoln was fucked up for not having a good ethical perspective. I'm okay with dogging on Lincoln a little bit, just like he accidentally married Todd. Call back.
Oh yeah, there you go.
A few times.
Yeah.
No.
How many kids did they have?
4.
Yeah,
we covered this.
We did.
Like a bunch of them died.
Just
Scarlet fever.
no, it's just been a few hundred years.
Just
That's why
like-
they all died.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, just chronology killed them. No, I am perfectly fine with if it is a place's fault, you should deal with the consequences of that. A la the Democrats shouldn't just say learn to code because that's a lazy answer for people's livelihood. Just as I think the moment it becomes economically advantageous for people's jobs to be replaced by machine learning, AI, robotics, what have you, the moment it returns shareholder value and it earns Elon Musk another dollar in his life, they will absolutely pull the blanket out from under those workers with no second thought. I think there's a moral obligation to have second and third and first. I don't know why I went in that order. Thought.
Second and third and
Second
first.
and third and first. I mean, they're all included. Who gives a fuck whether they're chronological? I guess I do because I brought it up. I think there is an obligation to make sure that those people can have a livelihood. But as we attempt to move towards a Star Trek future where you're only working because you want to, or your job provides meaningful value, which to me, no offense, if you're just there to sell potato chips and you're a marketer, that's not a valuable job. I'm sorry. If you didn't dream of it when you were a kid, if you're putting out fires, fuck yeah.
We're not all going to be astronauts and policemen.
Oh my god.
Can you imagine that? 80% of the world's population.
You mean like policemen in space?
Yeah. Like
policemen, yeah, in space.
Yeah, like
and
policemen.
policewomen, we allow those.
Oh,
currently.
what does space police brutality look like?
Well, you can't hit them with a club. Oh, like you just
Yeah.
oxygenate them for a few seconds.
Yeah, you like drain
it'd
the
be
oxygen
easy
from
to.
their ships.
Oh my god, that's really dark.
You like tap into their.
Well, I was gonna say if you like Derek Chauvin somebody in space.
Oh my god.
Because like all you have to do is like unplug their thing for 8 minutes and be like, I didn't know I was choking them.
Oh my god.
I mean, hey, he got found guilty. I can say it. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm all for. I fucking hate the George Floyd apologists.
Yeah.
We're not gonna argue about that one.
Yeah, that's too recent.
It was 2 years ago.
Regardless of it was
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Was it?
4 years ago?
No.
It was like 2020, wasn't it?
It was more recent. We can fact check the George Floyd, well, at least the sentencing for Chauvin.
Was more recent, but
Like 2 years ago.
no. Circling back, and I feel like I keep saying that.
Circling back.
There would have been, because the South did support and subsidize the North did support and subsidize the Southern economy to some extent through Reconstruction, and it was Southern lobbying that made that happen.
Ironic.
But it wasn't enough to make the South go, yeah, maybe you're right. Let's go full on capitalism with this and start opening up a bunch of railroad plants or whatever.
So why do you think
still like,
yeah,
we're still making a lot of money on cotton.
Right. So they did not learn their lesson or apologize. And
they did. I wouldn't say that they didn't apologize.
Ironically enough, it's the Southern states and that Southern mentality. The people who are going to be Southern apologists are also the type of people to do a pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality, despite.
So you're saying they shouldn't have gotten it because of like
the
their
future?
mentality?
No, I think they shouldn't have got. Well, their mentality was we should be allowed to own people for economic value.
And the North was like, we're okay with you owning people for economic value. Again,
that was just Lincoln.
That was
maybe.
not just Lincoln.
Well,
that was
I don't know.
most. But and that's the thing is like if you were a quote unquote radical Republican, you would not have been elected prior to Lincoln. And obviously Republicans didn't exist, but if you're a radical abolitionist,
yeah,
you would not have been elected to national
Right, and I have an issue with that as well. But that's all. And I admit I'm looking at it through my modern lens. Yeah. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah.
It was the mood of the time, and
mood.
Because of that, we can look at it through our modern lens and say that the North was complicit to some extent in the continuation.
No,
of
I'm
slavery.
applying. Yeah, and I totally admit I am applying a Bernie Sanders, Frank Andrew Yang, one of the Yangs, viewpoints, perspectives on it, where I'm saying that mistake of recognizing you should own people and go to war to own people, the consequence of that should be, well, pull yourself up by your fucking bootstraps, because we're not going to bail you out when you make that choice. It's not a mistake.
Well, when their form of pulling themselves up by their bootstraps is basically functionally continuing chattel slavery.
Right. Then get a different pair of goddamn boots. If that's how you have to do it, if you release somebody from prison and their justification for going back to, and this is a problem, is repeat offenders, because you're not providing them with education. It's not rehabilitative, it's punishment, and then you're earning money off of them. But if they're like, well, this is how I pull myself off with my bootstraps, and then they rob someone, you can't go clap, 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 clap. Kudos to you for trying to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, in the same way that the South can't say, what if we just kind of sort of own people because you're making us pull ourselves up by our bootstraps? Like, no, you need different boots and different bootstraps and maybe a whole different fucking group of people to pull yourself up by. Maybe you need to take a page from the North in the enlightened world, no offense to the fucking idiots, and do some factory shit. In that area, wolves learn to code. Find a different way to get value. Maybe do the work yourself.
But
instead
that's
of
the
making
thing is
other people do it essentially for free.
That was capitalism. There was a market for that cotton.
Sure, and there's a market for selling children on the black market. That doesn't mean you should go about doing it.
But it's a very big market. And
it's not a too big to fail type thing. It's not. It's not. They make enough money.
You're right. I'm not going to say that the cotton industry at the time was too big to fail and should have been bailed out by the government.
That's what you're saying. The South said slavery is too big to fail. If slavery fails, so does the South.
Well, that
was
is true,
literally why they went to war. And then it is Bernie Madoff asking for a bailout. It is Sachs and all the 2008s asking for a bailout. Just as I think we were wrong for bailing them out.
The cotton industry was too big to fail.
Okay.
And so it should have been subsidized by the North following the abolition of slavery.
Why?
Why? Because the production needs were not immediately following the Civil War being met.
People need clothes too badly, so the North has to...
The British people need clothes too badly?
That's a shit take for why the North should have to pay for their mistake. It wasn't a whoops. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't spilled milk. They owned people, and the logical consequence...
And the North was complicit in them owning people. The North was also making money on them owning people.
Fine, and the North...
They would have been making
and the North was
more
wrong
money
for that too.
There's an argument to be made that production among free people who are making a livable wage is higher than production among people who are not making a wage, right?
Yes, making money makes more money than no money. Well played.
No.
You said more than people who aren't making a wage.
People who make wages are more productive than people who don't make wages.
Okay. Sounds like
and
the
that's
South
why
shouldn't be doing
slavery is economically unviable, on top of being wholly morally bad.
Well, unfortunately, it is. I think it is economically viable. It's just not ethically viable.
It was for a while, but it would have been more. And there's been
it's ethically viable to the slaveholder.
There's been a study on this, and I'm not going to quote. I'm not going to quote bad statistics to you. I'm not going to quote bad statistics.
No, do it. Make up a statistic right now.
But
do it.
There's something
Tell me what it is.
People making a livable wage on average are 33% more productive than people who don't make a livable wage.
Sounds
and that's
good.
Now apply that to slavery. Imagine how unproductive the slaves were and how much more productive people would have been had they been making money.
I'm dragging
cotton.
If you're not going to pay me, I'm going to be dragging ass at work.
100%.
Well, or if you beat me or rape my family, then maybe I'll speed it up a bit.
Well, yeah,
that's
but not to the point of hey, we have an economic monetary agreement.
Right. Well, God. So maybe the fucking South should
have just started paying out livable wages.
Yeah, they needed
and
to
the
do
only
some
way that they
sensing
could have
sessions.
do that, or to help them get back on their feet and start paying those livable wages, would have been through northern subsidies.
Yeah, if I was a northern taxpayer
or federal subsidies.
Man, if I was a northern taxpayer, working at a factory, and they're like, so what are my taxes going towards? And then they're like, paying some fucking plantation owner so he can pay his person like 3 cents out of the dollar you're giving him. Boy, howdy, would I have been livid.
Well,
I'm livid now.
That same thing was happening in the North.
Yeah,
is we were
hate
subsidizing like the iron industry or the steel industry rather.
Yeah, I can hate that too. I can hate multiple things.
Yeah, so you're like, where my taxes are going?
Sure.
Two unethical things, not just one.
I currently hate a lot of things our taxes go to.
Yeah.
But
not bombs and whatnot. Anyways.
No, those are fine.
No, bombs
those
are
don't
awesome.
pay for themselves.
Bombs are great.
Have you ever seen them explode?
Yeah, they look so cool.
Dude, they're fucking sick.
Yeah.
We're not going to agree to disagree on that one.
No.
Like a high five from over here. All right, I think
are we ending episode
on a
3?
bomb?
No.
Are we bombing?
Yeah, on another Lockheed reference or Boeing reference.
Are we bombing right now?
Yeah. We are. Yeah, we definitely are. Are we ending episode 3 where we have failed to agree at the end on 2 different topics?
Well, there was slavery. I think slavery's bad, and you seem
I
to
think
it's
slavery's
good.
bad. Yeah.
And what was the second one?
Calm down with that. I do not. I just went into why economically slavery is bad, and also ethically. But again, we agree.
We're gonna cut that part though.
Slavery is.
We're gonna edit this.
I'm gonna cut it so that I sound like.
God, a lot of hard R's from Reid over there on the other side.
Jesus.
That's crazy.
Yes. No. I think we still disagree on like.
Okay, so
the North should have subsidized to some extent.
And what was the second?
The federal government, should have subsidized to some extent.
Yeah, I say no. And what was the second thing?
It was our last episode.
Oh.
I still think Washington would not have nuked.
Yeah, and you're wrong.
No, you're wrong.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad we're maintaining the theme of no, you're wrong. Through all of the evidence of no,
you're
but
wrong.
you.
I've personally met George Washington, and he would not have nuked.
Yeah, well, I've met a lot of
that man chopped down a cherry tree.
Yeah, he wouldn't.
And then admitted to it.
And then fucked Mary Todd.
No, wrong one.
Oh, shit, that was Amelia Earhart.
You're 16
right?
presidents.
That was Amelia Earhart, right?
No, you're thinking of Helen Keller, the one who flew a plane across the Atlantic.
Yeah, and then she hid in the attic in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
All right, we'll continue that. God, she would have gotten away if she wasn't blind.
Next episode.
Yeah, if she was mute, she wouldn't have made so much sound and gotten caught.
Yeah, it's so true. Anyways,
I'm Gabriel Schatzman. Unless you hate my opinion,
Reid Robinson. This has been Uncensored. Thank you for listening.
Yep. Have a good one.